morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Nerd Tube, and it's time to talk about Quantum Leap, Season 1, Episode 12, Let Them Play. And this, without a doubt, was a very controversial episode regarding the subject matter. Now, a lot of people call Quantum Leap to be a woke show, and I totally understand that, and this episode was definitely along those lines. But considering I'm a woke motherfucker myself, I'm a bisexual man, very proud about it, and I stand by my trans allies, my trans brothers and sisters, and non-binaries and all sorts. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I got angry watching this episode, and I got very emotional watching this episode.
So
So
did
many
I.
different, so many different sorts of feelings was running through me as I was watching this episode, because it kind of reminds me of the world we're living in today,
Mm,
where trans people have become the boogeyman, so to speak, in society, because certain politicians have nothing else to offer other than hatred towards the other. And unfortunately, we live in a society where too many people have hatred towards the other, not knowing that really that hatred is not just, and what we need hatred towards is the very politicians ruining our fucking lives for corporate entities. Nevertheless, I don't want to go too much of a tangent here. What did you think of this episode, Jim?
it was very angry, very sad, very confusing. Like people trying to control each other. It's like, why? I mean, in it, I mean, in our development right now, have we got over that? I mean, other
Yeah.
races had problems too, and they got over it, or there's still problems going on with that there too. But it's just like, why is this happening in the first place? Can we all get along? Really?
I think there's some people that just they live to subjugate others, you know, and they don't want to understand, like in a way they've almost been fooled and mocked. Not mocked, sorry, they've been fooled into believing a certain thing a certain way. And even though they kind of know that they've been explained things in a way that makes them understand, they come across trans people that should make them understand. They don't want to understand,
Mm,
because to understand and to admit that you're wrong is a sign of weakness, and it also may be a sign of your own personal stupidity to be so hoodwinked into believing trans people are an issue in the first place. So that's why we
absolutely.
have all this bigotry still to this day. And obviously, people are indoctrinated through their religious beliefs as well into believing these things. It's a very sad current state of affairs. And you see, like, with people like Ron DeSantis and the Republican Party in general, and obviously what Donald Trump is now throwing out there, the red meat to his base, so to speak, by shitting on trans people. They're just an easy target. They simply are. They are less than 1% of the world's population, and yet they seem to be a massive target for everyone out there when it comes to hating on people. They really are, and it grinds my gears. It it rubs me up the wrong fucking way. I get very very angry, very emotional with these particular issues. You got the whole thing. I'm not sure if you know about this new video game called Hogwarts Legacy.
Mm,
It's made it's J.K. Rowling. Obviously, she created Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling is an anti-trans person, and there is like a dispute regarding this game between the trans community and just regular gamers, and they're just saying if you might be pro trans, but you might also want to play this Hogwarts game. And this is where I think maybe some of my trans brothers and sisters have kind of got this a little bit wrong, really. But you don't want to ostracize people who play this game. There's a lot of things in this world I have an issue with. I have an issue with Amazon. I use Amazon. I have an issue with how McDonald's workers
mm-hmm.
are treated. I still go to McDonald's and I buy a burger now and again. I have an issue with so many things. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that me purchasing from these companies means that I don't care about those issues. I do. There's so many variables that has to come into play. Not everything is so black and white. Even though we're trying to fight the good fight here. Sorry for yabbering on. I do apologize. Let's talk about this episode, shall we?
Let's go.
All right. So in this episode, Ben Sung, he starts off in the body of a man called Carlos Mendez. He happens to be the basketball coach of this high school team, this high school girls basketball team, and also the father of one of the athletes who happens to be a trans girl. So without realizing this, when one of the players on his team gets an injury, he brings on the next available person off the bench,
Number
not
23,
realizing
I
that's
think
it. Number 23 was exactly
it was. Yep.
number 23, not realizing this person's trans, not realizing this person's his daughter as well. But this is where he changes the timeline a little bit because this team was supposed to lose that game, but they ended up winning that game. Now, even though he changed the timeline just a little bit, he did not change the outcome of what was supposed to happen. Um, in this timeline, he was supposed. What basically what's going to happen is that his daughter is going to be ostracized so much
Mm,
that she ends up running away, and by being on the streets and running away,
yep.
she'll kill herself or she dies somehow
Mm,
horribly. Being a young trans person, there's a lot of people who will do terrible things to you in various ways, whether they hate you or they want to use you. It's just, yeah, it's hard to even think about. In our present day storyline, Janice suggests that the person um Ben spoke to regarding jumping, the first person, was a person called Dottie.
mm,
And so Jennifer and Magic go pay Dottie a visit,
yes.
and they showed them the picture of, the security cam picture of Ben meeting Dottie, but Dottie has no recollection of that period,
Right.
of that moment, and they're not being evasive; they just don't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, during the course of this episode, we do see Ben and the person who plays the person who's inhabiting Body's wife.
Mm-hmm.
So in the body, that person's wife, and they go to some sort of trans community, some trans sort of get together for parents with trans kids,
Right.
and all these different trans kids are talking to each other, and all these parents are talking to each other about how hard it is to bring up a child who's transgendered, and it just seeing this scene kind of just made me worried about just today's world a little bit, Jim, because if the right wing gets their way, they will outlaw children being able to trans. When I say children, I mean people who know, young people who know at a young age. But even the people on the right who are transgendered, like Blair White, and she admits at the age of 5, she knew that she was a girl, even though she was a boy at the time. She knew that she was a girl. Yeah, and this person is a right wing fucking grifter, Blair White, who basically goes against the trans narrative, who's trans herself but is extremely anti-trans. You couldn't write this shit, but it works being a right winger like this. Nevertheless, there are young people who know what they are in life. They genuinely know who they are in life, and they know that they're in the body of somebody. They're in the wrong gender. They know that, and they want to be in the gender they're supposed to be. And this is where we see this person Gia, who's very lucky to have parents who
Mm-hmm.
understand that. All these kids are very lucky to have parents that understand that. But if the Republicans and right wing uh, governments generally, whether it be my country or your country, have their way, they would never let kids at an early age transition, even though they know who they are. I mean, you have to understand, like someone like Gia, she's not a child, but she's not an adult either. She's a teenager,
Right.
and that's still technically classified as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but she knows who she is, and she's comfortable in her own new skin, so to speak. It's not complicated. It's just for some people it's iffy, and it shouldn't be. What I mean, nobody expects their kids to be trans, but
Right.
if it is, then you have to listen to your child and understand their needs. All right. Um, So we also get to hear from Ian a little bit as well, and he talks about um her grief. I don't know. Ian represents Ian goes by. I know the actor is non-binary, but I believe Ian. I mean, Ian's a masculine name, but I believe Ian goes by she, her pronouns.
I have no
I'm
idea.
not sure. I'm not sure, and I don't want to be disrespectful to the
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
But Ian talks about their um their issues as a kid and how Ian wanted to take um their own life, so to speak.
Hmm.
And this is something I'm not sure if you know much about trans people, Jim, but this is something you hear it a lot, because it's still there's still, being gay, being homosexual is hard enough in today's world.
Hmm.
To be trans is so much harder.
Hmm.
It's so much harder, mate. And unfortunately, a lot of trans people, because of the world we live in, the harsh world we live in, where there's still a lot of people who discriminate.
Hmm.
They end up taking their own lives,
Yeah, I
and
say
it's a real
that
shame.
young young kids like being bullied in school, being like 10 or 12, 15, take their own lives because they can't take it anymore.
Yeah,
Stuff like that.
yeah,
And like I said, can we all just get
yeah.
along? I mean, come on. It's just
Oh,
so
I wish that really was the case, Jim. But there's some people
I know.
who live to be assholes. They get off. I mean, the only way they could interact is to be horrible. It's the only way they know, and then they need to have a villain. They don't want to get along for
Hmm.
some people. Anyway, there's a school car wash, and Gia and her friends are there. It's one of some of the heartwarming things about this story is that Gia does have many friends who accept her for who she is.
It's
Her
good.
parents accept her for who she is. That's so lucky to
Yeah,
have a family, have your mum and your dad accept you for who you are. It's a rarity. It really is.
I imagine it is.
Anyway, they're having a car wash, and all of a sudden, some horrible bigots they throw some eggs at the car, don't they? And
Throwing their eggs all over the car, trying
again,
trying to hit her, missed her and everything. And of course, she took a hammer, I think, and threw it. Of course, hit the car. Then that lady got all pissed and everything. But it's just an accident.
it's just an accident. They said to Gia, "You'll never be a real woman," because they were targeting Gia in the first place. And then by doing so, Gia reacted, and unfortunately, she ended up damaging like
It's
this
back
one particular this one particular mother's car who has an issue with trans people in the first place. And so, yeah, that didn't help the matter any further. Um, so
just an egg.
Dottie, she's so back in the present day, Dottie's doing her performances, and as Jen and Magic watch, Magic comes to the real. I mean, Dottie's performance is absolutely bizarre, but Magic comes to the realization that Dottie does probably why Dottie doesn't realize um she doesn't remember Ben is because probably like her memory's been wiped or something along those lines.
Yeah, she
Now,
lost memory for a week.
yeah, she lost her memory for a week, and she's turned that into a performance
That was
on the
something.
stage.
That was something.
Yeah,
It
well,
was good.
I
It was
get
something.
when it comes to the art, sometimes we use it. I mean, we can only ever really use at times our own experiences in the way to portray art at times.
Hmm.
The principal and the parents are discussing Gia's place on the basketball team, and then Gia learns that she was never supposed to play and she was just supposed to be on the bench. This really fucks Gia up. I mean, she realizes that it was all a facade. She was never, she's not supposed to play in the first place, and then she then decides to run away. And this is where Addison tells Ben, "Listen, you have to find her. If you don't find her, she'll die on the streets." And because she's transgendered, she gets misgendered,
Yep.
and nobody realizes who she is because she gets mistaken for a man.
Hmm.
And in a way, because nobody knows who she is, she kind of becomes John Doe and erased from history. It's really sad, really scary.
It is.
Now, was the young blonde lady, was that Dottie like 10 years or 11 years earlier?
I think it was, yes. I mean, she talked her to stay there until her parents showed up. I mean, she did a very
Yeah,
good job. Very
a fantastic job, and this is where I liked this young version of Dottie because
yes.
she basically gave the lowdown to Gia by saying, "Listen, Gia, you are really lucky. I had no choice but to run away. No, my family disowned me. My whole community disowned me. I had to leave. You have friends. You have a mum and dad that accepts
Love
you
you.
for who you are. They're going to make mistakes along the way, without a doubt, but they love you." Yeah, and Dottie did the right thing by saying, by keeping Gia there and speaking to Ben, and Gia's mother, to tell them to come and collect her, and they do. And this is when Gia kind of gives her grievances to her parents by saying, "Look, you got to let me live. I understand you're sheltering me from all this terribleness, but I have to live my life. I have to make mistakes, growing pains along the way. You need to let me grow." And they understand that. Obviously, it must be so much more harder when your daughter is trans, but I can totally understand, where Gia is coming from as well, because she's been she's got like almost like the opposite to what a lot of trans kids tend to get. Whilst a lot of trans kids sometimes get ostracized by their parents and kicked to the curb, her
Yep.
parents have sheltered her so much that she can't even breathe. She can't do anything. And so yeah, that was a really nice little sweet moment. But
It was
now,
great. And then they
but
all
now
hug
we
each other.
yeah,
They all hug
oh
each
no,
other.
yeah, yeah, group hug. It was
Oh
really
yeah,
sweet. I loved
that
it.
was good. I was tearing up at that time.
But now, Jim, we have a basketball game to win. Yeah,
Let's win it, damn it.
so with Gia saved and the basketball match to play, Gia's kind of welcome back to her by her team and all her team, even the one girl she had a falling out with. They've become friends. And they also insist that she changes with them in the same changing room. This
Yes.
is something that they decided, not they didn't want the parents to decide. They were comfortable with Gia. All of these things matter. Listen to, instead of like speaking on behalf of your kids, listen to your fucking kids. If they're cool with this, then they're cool with this.
Right.
So and I like their motto as well. Their motto was, "We're a team, but not without Gia," just to make sure that Gia show that she's totally included. Fantastic.
Great.
So the game starts, and there are a few bigots in the crowd,
Yeah.
and they've got the anti-trans signs, and it's kind of affecting Gia's game a little bit. But Ben tells Gia, "Listen, don't worry about them. Ignore them.
Yes.
Look over here. There's more people supporting you than there are people against you."
Yep.
And that was also a nice moment as well, showing that regardless of people
Yep.
hating on you, there's always going to be people who back you. I back you as well, Gia, and I know fucking Jim backs you
Yep.
as well. So yeah, you got our backing too.
And those people in the lower area had that big old paper sign and everything, and everybody was
hmm
wearing that and holding
There's
that
three dudes had
longer and longer and longer. Big support right there.
th-
Big support.
and there's three dudes had Gia written on their chest as well. So
Yeah, that was something else. They kind of
yeah,
switched a little bit.
yeah, they did, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
So after a pep talk, the team turns around and they play well.
Yep.
A union rep also comes in as well because apparently if Ben
I
did
love
play
that.
Gia, he was going to be fired, but this union rep backs Ben up and tells him, "Look, don't worry about it.
That's
I'm
good.
not going to fire you."
I love to see that.
But and the thing is about this whole moment, what I liked was that it wasn't really about winning the basketball game. It was just about saving Gia. And Ben did that. He saved Gia. He stopped her from running away and dying on the streets. The basketball game was just a little bonus. So he never really saw the completion of the game. By that time, he had already leaped.
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, you seen Gia take that ball and throw it, and it went right over, and she just
yeah,
slam dunk right in there. Ben goes, yeah, and he fizzes out, and he's gone.
yep. And by the way, I just want to say, great performance by the girl who plays Gia.
Beautiful.
Um, I, you could tell sometimes that your own personal grievances come into play when it comes to a role like this.
Hmm.
I'm sure Gia has experienced some bigotry
Oh, imagine.
and harassment and issues like that, being a trans person, and so I'm sure she was able to use those experiences to give the performance that she gave.
Hmm.
So excellent performance by Gia. Anyway,
Good.
Magic and Dottie are talking again, and Dottie says she doesn't remember that particular week, and then Magic basically says, "Well, it could be some sort of government conspiracy going on here. What if I
That's
tell
true.
you, what if I tell you that this and this happened?"
Yep.
And Dottie goes, "Well, that might be the case." And then she pulls out a picture book, and she says that every time she tries to remember that week, this particular image comes to her mind, and that image, was it Ian?
It looked
It was
like Ian,
Ian,
didn't
wasn't
it?
it?
It sure
It looked a
did look
lot
like
like
Ian.
it looked
Oh,
it looked like Ian,
oh yes. I'm like,
and
what?
so
Ian? When the heck did he get in the quantum leap thingy and go round?
exactly, so like Ian's thrown into the
That's
mix now as
interesting.
well.
Yeah,
So maybe Ian's keeping something
I
from
would think
everyone,
so.
because why does she remember Ian's face? She saw Ben,
Yep.
like Janice mentioned this earlier about her seeing Ben, and now Ian's coming into this. Like, there's always like a new twist and turn in the
Mystery,
present day story.
mystery.
Yeah.
A big one.
So going back to Ben, he leaps into the body of a cook. It
Yeah,
looks, after watching this a second time,
things look.
he's in an Indian restaurant.
Yeah,
And so he's in an Indian restaurant. There's Indian cooks around him. He's making some curry and rice, and all seems nice. And do you like your spicy food, Jim?
if I had spicy food, I'd be sitting in a john all day.
Everyone
Oh,
goes on about that. I understand. I understand spicy food makes you go to the toilet. You know what? Lots of food makes you go to the toilet, not just spicy food, but that we have to release
yeah,
it at some point.
yeah.
But can you handle your spice?
Not too good at my age. No. Oh, when I was younger, no problem. The older you get, the worse you get.
I
Remember
guess
that
so. But
when you get close to
yeah,
my age.
I guess so. But I'm sure. Have you ever had Indian food?
No,
Really?
no
That's
Indian
something you.
food or I just hamburgers,
Well,
hot
look.
dogs, McDonald's, Wendy's, Arby's.
Okay. Well, look. You're you're almost 60. Yeah. You need to put Indian food as something you need to look for some reviews online and find a good Indian restaurant and eat some good Indian food. And I'll happily write down some dishes
I
for
bet
you
you
to
would.
eat as an as somebody of Indian descent myself.
Hmm.
I think it's fundamental that someone like yourself needs to eat Indian food. Anyway, so nevertheless, Ben's in the body of of an Indian cook. I'm not sure if he's Indian himself, but probably is. He's in an
Probably.
Indian restaurant. Probably somebody ends up dying of food poisoning, and Ben has to stop that. Who fucking knows? But that's gonna, but that's gonna happen next week. So I think it's about time that we mark this episode. What are you gonna give it?
Well, I'm going to give it a big fat nine. It was a good episode. I really appreciated it. It kind of
I'm
makes
very
you
close.
think of what's going on, in the world and everything. And that story was brought to you by 2010. Back then, that's when Ben leaped in.
2012,
So,
2012. No,
2012?
2012.
2012. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
no
just got to
problem,
add
no problem. So that's most recent timeline as well. So,
really.
um, yeah. So
Oh, where I got 2010
I think I
at? I'm
think
almost 60. Brain goes,
I'm giving
woo.
I'm giving this episode a 10. Like, look, this episode has a message, it has an
Yeah.
agenda, has all of these things that a lot of people like to complain about, but I'm all with it because this isn't a message and agenda that needs to be said to everyone
Yep.
that trans people are not your enemy and they have it harder than people can. could honestly believe being transgendered in a world full of people who just don't want to accept them is very, very difficult. Being seen as the enemy. Nowadays people call them pedophiles and stuff like that, which is not the case. I mean, I'd be more worried about leaving my kid with a fucking priest than I would be with a fucking drag queen.
Yeah.
That's just me personally. So yeah, and drag queens are not transgender; they're men in drag.
Yeah.
Transgender people, that's a whole different ball game.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm giving this episode a 10 out of 10. I thought it was a very important message that needed to be told.
Yep.
I don't care if people have an issue with seeing transgender people on the television and thinking there's too much of that shit. They exist,
Yep.
and the reason why they're on our television is so people can accept them. Yeah, accept them. They're not on your TV all the fucking time. Yeah, and even if they were, who cares? They exist. This is the world we live in.
Yep.
Don't hate on them. Hate on people like there is a transgender person I despise. That's Blair White because she is a horrible fucking person, and I don't care that she's transgendered in the sense that her being transgendered is a way of her using a grift by siding with people who actually hate her is what I fucking despise about her in the first place because she's she's siding with people who are happy to kill her last if they could kill all transgender people. They would use her to um to eliminate the enemies and then take her out last once her job is done. She's the token. It's the same people like Candace Owens and stuff like that. They are the tokens of what I like to call white supremacy. Like they are the tokens of bigotry, of fascism. The fascism and the bigots, they need somebody on their side who represents the very people that they hate. So that way they don't look like haters themselves. And people like Blair White, people like Dave Rubin, people like Candace Owens, the transgender person, the gay person, the black person on their side, but really they hate them all. They genuinely do, and it's a real shame. But that's the sort of world we live in, and what upset me as well is that we look back at this episode, which is set in the year 2012, and have things gotten better for trans people? I'm not sure. Like there's more of a noticeability about them, and I think people are less surprised on them. But do they still hate them? Are there more laws coming out against them? Unfortunately, there is. You know, more so than ever. Before, no one gave a fuck about trans people. Now, all of a sudden, they are like like everything, every law. Like Donald Trump trying to get back into power. He's going off. He's willing to destroy trans people in order to become president of the United States again. That's how bad it's got for them. It's incredible. It's
Well,
so yeah. I give it yeah.
Zan, when I was growing up, my parents always told me, I don't care if you're yellow, green, blue, pocket, polka dotted, whatever. I don't care what color you are. You're a human being, and that's the way it should be. We all got to get along. I was told that all my life when I was growing up. It doesn't matter what color you are. We all got feelings. We all don't look like each other, but sometimes with beards and we all look like Santa Clauses around Christmas time. But we
I
just got to get along, man. Come on.
I used to be a bigot. I used to hate people who were gay
And
and stuff like that, and I was an idiot for it.
you know,
I hanged around with the wrong crowd, and I have a lot of retribution to make because of that, which is why I fight so stringently. Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure. But
watch
I,
what you say.
I but nevertheless, I feel like I have to make up for all the stupidity I did in my earlier years, in my teens, and in my early 20s.
Yeah.
For being the idiot that I was when I was younger towards people within the LGBTQ community, and I'll never be that person again. And yeah, that's why I fight so vehemently uh, alongside my transgendered allies. But I will say this: I do think that the whole thing regarding the Harry Potter game, to there's some people I know who are trans on YouTube, like Jesse Gender and Council of Geeks. and they have a bit of an issue with certain people playing the new Harry Potter game. And I think, look, don't go after them. You know, J.K. Rowling is who you go after. The people who make this video game, who have actually got trans characters in that video game, you know, they're actually on your side. These
Right.
developers and stuff like that. You know, I know J.K. Rowling is going to make money out of this, but you need to go after your politicians and your developers have put trans characters in that game because they want to sell it to people who are trans as well. They want to, you know, it's about inclusivity. So, yeah. Oh God, getting a bit too political now. I do apologize,
Oh, you can
but
go
yeah,
on for another half an hour yet.
I
Easy.
I have done it. I have done in the
Good.
past. I have done in the past, but yeah, great episode, and I really look forward to next week as well. Maybe
Oh, it's gonna be
that
interesting.
change of pace. That change of pace is what we need now after this episode being such a political one in its own right. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, great stuff. You know, you gave it a 9. I for once I gave it a higher mark than you did, Commodore Boone. Who would have thought that?
Well, you always go low sometimes, so I kind of stay. I kind of hover a little bit.
Well, 9 out of 10 is nothing to nothing to sneeze at. You know, I mean, 9 out of 10 shows that it's excellent. You
Yeah.
know, it's beyond excellent. You know, I give it a 10 because
Yeah.
it, I just give it a 10. But you know, honestly, like it's just a message more than anything, which is why I give it a 10. It's a message that needs to be said. You know, and I like the portrayal of it. I like the fact that you know they went down a different route with accepting families and accepting friends. That they yes, that not everyone hates you. There are people who accept you for who you are, but you're still going to come across people outside of your
Oh yeah.
circle, so to speak, who will always have an issue with you,
Of
you
course.
know, and yeah, it's just about keep fighting that fight, and unfortunately, like this generation of transgender people, because they're more out than ever, and it's no longer just a hidden secret anymore. You know, they're exposing themselves to the world, so to speak,
Mhm.
but they are the trailblazers, and unfortunately, the trailblazers never tend to necessarily live the simplest and easiest lives. It's always the people who come after them, you know. So, yeah, here's to the trailblazers. Long may they continue to fight the good fight. Um, Thank you very much for joining me, Commodore Boone. It's been a
No problem.
fantastic
Take care.
discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed today's episode and talking about it. I'll be back tomorrow with a quick review of the Bad Batch, and I also have my Bad Batch review on TikTok as well. I've done reviews, 3 minute reviews of last week's episode of National Treasure, the most recent episode of Last of Us, as well as this episode of Quantum Leap. And I'll be doing a 3 minute review of Bad Batch as well tomorrow on TikTok, as well as doing my main review here on YouTube. So check that out. We're on as I said earlier, we're on TikTok. Check out our channel on TikTok. Look for us on TikTok. Type in NerdTube on
Go.
TikTok. You'll find us. Yeah, we're great on TikTok. We got over a thousand. You know what? I left the TikTok channel for a while. I didn't. I was uploading stuff left, right, and center for weeks on end, months on end, and all of a sudden I just got fed up of it. And then I came back to the TikTok channel after not checking it for a while, and we've got over 1,000 followers. I couldn't believe it.
Holy crap.
Daniel Vance has said, while I understand them better normalizing LB2, it was odd for them to cast out on Mason in the same episode. I understand that evil too, but it felt at odds with itself. Mason? Who the hell is Mason? You're not sure about Ian?
Nope.
Mason? Who the fuck is?
Another mystery thrown in.
I understand that. I'm totally confused, Daniel Vance.
It looked like Eden to me because Eden wears those round glasses in that.
Yeah, that's Ian.
Hmm. What did Daniel
Oh
want
yeah.
to give this episode? Hmm.
You think Ian's the bad guy? I'm not sure, man. I don't know. If Ian ends up being a bad guy, I'll be shocked.
Yeah,
because nothing about Ian
Wow,
has come across as villainous. I mean,
nothing bad yet. Yet.
you think? I think there's more. I think there's layers to it. Like,
I don't think he's bad at all. I mean, he's been good through all these episodes. He's been doing pretty damn good,
as
helping
the
out
other
everybody and
leaper.
everything, and trying to
No,
get
but
back.
we saw that Martinez guy is the other leaper, didn't we?
Yeah, we haven't seen him for a while.
We haven't seen him in fucking ages.
Oh, he might
It's
be
been
coming
over.
up at the
Yeah,
end of the season with another loop. Who knows? I gotta check
yeah.
that
It's gonna be. Yeah, it's good. Look. Uh, at this moment in time, I'm not thinking. I'm not looking at Ian as a baddie. I'm looking at, okay. Well, this needs it. This I look at it. I look at it as, well, this needs an explanation. Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week now, won't
So Ian leaps at some point and take controls of the poet. Oh, oh my god! I never thought of it like that.
we? Hey, Danny Vance, you got a ball, future ball that you know what's going on before we do?
That's a great way of explaining that. I never thought of it like that. Couldn't comprehend it until you mentioned it. Yeah, that is that is interesting. So yeah, it's yeah. I, I I'm blown away by that revelation.
Yeah. You put the monkey wrench in the spokes there, Danny Vance.
Well, I thought Ian remembered the change timeline and not the original because at that particular moment,
Well, Ian,
Ben had already Ben won the basketball game when they were supposed to lose it.
yeah, Ian did remember that they won. He also remembered that girl was in trouble too.
Well, he's on break at
Yeah.
the moment. He's on break, so that's what happened to Santa. Yeah. And he makes a good Santa. We've spoken about this in the past. If you were on our channel um during Christmas, you would have seen Santa Claus as well as Jim being Santa Claus.
Boom claws.
You know, you would have got the full experience.
Oh, I
Yeah.
even I even made a video of Boom Claws on my channel, so he's
Oh
out there.
yeah.
Yep, and
But
this
yeah,
all
I
natural.
just,
Yeah,
as I said earlier, Daniel Vance, I thought, Ian only remembered the new timeline because, like I said, Ben had immediately changed things. So that meant time had changed, and Ian remembered that.
yep.
But yeah, we're gonna find out. We're gonna eventually find out because Magic obviously is going to confront Ian about this next week
I would
and say,
imagine
"What the
so.
fuck, man? What the fuck is going on, Ian?"
He probably
And
took his
maybe
cell
that
phone out and took a
and
picture
who
and said,
knows,
"What's this?"
and 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 who knows, by confronting Ian, that makes Ian do what.
Possible.
Maybe that makes Ian, it becomes a paradox. Maybe Ian being confronted by magic ends up going down that particular path. Maybe Ian was never going to go down that path until magic confronts him
Yeah.
about it. It's crazy. You know, so
Well,
yeah, it's gonna be.
what the question is, what would you do if someone confronts you about something, and how would you
No,
handle it?
no, this is where I do agree. This is where I do agree, but I felt that this one was more to do with Ian's personal experiences more than remembering a moment in history, so to speak, that was taught to them. If you get what I'm saying. So yeah. Nevertheless, every likelihood that you're correct in all of this, Daniel Vance. So we'll see.
Oh, man.
We'll see how this pans out. But once again, with regarding the present day storyline, I am expecting Ian to confront. Sorry, I'm expecting Magic to confront Ian about all of this and say, "What the hell, Ian? Why the hell is this woman drawing pictures of
It's
your face? Can you explain that to me?" And then Ian
yep.
obviously then decides to do his quantum leaping himself because of that. Because of that, and maybe Magic might realize that. I think Magic might even communicate with Janice or Jennifer and say, look, if I tell Ian about this, will Ian end up doing this? If I don't tell him, then will he not do this? Will he still do this if I don't tell him? Maybe if I do tell him, he won't do it. Yeah, like, what the
What
fuck?
if? What if he did this?
Yeah, well,
What if he did that?
yeah. It's it's
What
it's
ifs?
crazy.
Yep.
So, all right. I need to
Big Mister.
go gather my birds.
Yep.
By the way, I've taken some pictures.
And don't forget to
I'll
charge
quit
your
that.
car.
Yeah, that's another thing I need to do. I'll quickly show you. Let me show you a couple of pictures.
Ooh.
I took quite a few. Bloody hell. That is juicy and blue. I'm not sure if you can see that. They're on my hand eating a
Yeah.
strawberry.
Right there. It's a little
Yeah,
bright on top, but you can make it out.
yeah, they're eating a strawberry on my hand. And then as soon as that happened, Brutus came along, pushed Juicy away, and now that's Juice Brutus and Blue on my hand eating a strawberry.
You gotta make a video and put the video out sometime.
Well, this is another fantastic theory from Daniel Vance saying,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I will put a video up by the way, Jim. But it could be a leaper inside Ian that makes him leap like a Russian nesting doll. Yes, it could be Martinez. It could be Martinez who ends up in Ian. Oh my god.
Possible.
Yeah. Ian even makes a comment about bested by his own technology. Yeah, I just thought that was a quick quip, but yeah, I picked up on that as well. So yeah, what if it's Martinez who ends up in Ian? But Martinez is from the future, isn't he?
Yep.
He's time traveling from the future. So
Just going to get
yeah,
interesting and interesting and interesting.
and that'll be a good way for government for government espionages. Like will just leap you into certain people's bodies in the past to get things done, and that's how they get things done. Yeah, because nobody will ever suspect that they've been,
Yep.
infiltrated by a different host.
Yep.
You know, yeah.
Oh, you can
Anyway,
sit here and think about it all day and drive
oh
yourself nuts.
yeah, yeah. My brain is frying now. We'll see.
That's it.
We'll see. We'll see how this pans out. Well, now we're on episode 12. I don't know how many more episodes. Let's just quickly check Quantum Leap season 1 episodes. How many more episodes there are left?
Don't know.
2022. Okay. I can give you the 15 episodes, all right? Well, I'm glad you know that. Well, I can give you the synopsis for next week. You want me to tell you, Commodore Boone?
Sure.
It's called Family Style. When Ben leaps into an Indian family to try to prevent their beloved family restaurant from burning down, he finds emotional connection with their matriarch through memories of his own. Magic and Jen share a surprising revelation with Ian, and that's obviously for the present day story, and that comes out on 20th of February. 20th of February.
Yep.
That's That's 2 weeks, isn't it?
We're on break again.
Yeah,
It gives
that's
me a
two
chance to
weeks
make
away.
some fan films.
That's two
That's
weeks
that's
away
what I
for
was telling
fuck's
you earlier.
sake. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna have a 1 week break, unfortunately,
Okay.
from this, and then we're back again next week.
Make
15
this so
episodes. I think I'm glad there's 15 episodes. Honestly, a 2022 episode is just too much. Then like I'm glad it's 15 episodes. Even that feels like a stretch. But yeah, hopefully it'll get done,
yeah.
and we'll see how things culminate. So all
Did
right, and I've also
did
Daniel Vance. Yeah, go on.
did Daniel Vance mark this? Did he tell us what he was going to give the episode?
Yeah, give us a mark, Daniel Vance, on this episode. I
This
will
might be
say
good.
that because next week's episode is going to be an Indian restaurant, I have now told Jim, who's almost
Yeah,
60
here we
years
go.
old, that he has not eaten any fucking Indian food in his life, and he needs to eat Indian food. He needs to eat Indian food. He needs to eat Indian food fucking badly. He needs to go to a proper Indian restaurant. Now, make sure you go to an Indian restaurant that's not vegetarian, because Hindu culture is vegetarian, but not
Yeah.
all. But Indian itself, I mean, or Central Asian, however you want to look at it, is more than just Hindu culture. Obviously, there's Islamic culture as well as Christian culture too,
Mm.
as well as like certain Muslims, certain Hindus who do eat meat. But the point is, make sure you go to an Indian restaurant that serves you fucking meat. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to eat curry. You need to eat curry, and I want you to fucking film yourself eating curry for the first time. So that'll make a good video. Yeah, you need to do it, dude.
A good
I've
video
eaten.
thrown up.
Yeah, listen, listen, listen. Yeah, I'm from central London, England. Yeah, I have eaten biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I can eat biscuits and gravy and collard greens and pumpkin pie and all that shit you fuckers like to eat over there across the
Pumpkin pie,
pond,
the whipped cream.
yeah, yeah. Well, if I've eaten all of that, you have to eat a curry.
Mm.
You have to eat a fucking curry. So yeah,
We'll
that's your
see.
next mission. Yeah, you start researching that shit. You Google it, whatever. Next time you want to get a bite to eat, you don't fucking stop at fucking McDonald's. You go to Lahore. Yeah, and you go to Lahore and you fucking get yourself a fucking curry. All right, everyone out there in
Sounds
YouTube
good.
land, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of, and also we're on TikTok as well,
TikTok.
also called NerdTube. Oh, by the way, this is what Daniel Vance is giving it. I had to give this one a 5. It gave a breadcrumb of a story up, but felt like a car wash dance show. Oh, that's a shame. But at least I understand where you're coming from. You know, comes from, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will sleep well. I'll sleep very well,
Have a good night,
and
Daniel.
I'll see you guys. And by the way, there are other videos that come out today. There's a fan film that came out today on YouTube, as well as Ginger Greek talking about the issues um regarding the new Hogwarts game and
Mm.
the trans messaging that's come from transgendered YouTubers and influencers who have an issue with this game. But I think the way Ginger has portrayed it is very much the right thing. As I said earlier, I do stand by my trans. I'm an ally with trans people,
Yeah.
but I think maybe boycotting streamers who play the game and ousting them as transphobes. I think that's the wrong message to send. Totally is. You want people to be on your side, and I'll always be on your side, even if you make mistakes. But that's the wrong message to send for sure, and you're not doing yourselves any favors. But that's just my quick little quip on that. All right, take care, everyone, and we'll see you guys later.